Hello, good morning everyone. Hope you're all well. Um, and welcome to this morning's webinar. My name's Lee Ping and I'm an account manager at KIC. This morning we've got a great presentation which is being delivered by Rob Jackson of Cosmos. So this morning we're going to be looking at Cosmos reporting. It's a lightning fast cloud reporting analytics product built specifically for Business Central SaaS. We have a bit of a agenda this morning, so we'll go through today basically why Cosmos, the Cosmos portal. We'll discuss the report editor, the Power BI integration, solutions overview, and then we'll have a Q&A session. Now, it's probably about 35 to 40 minutes today. At the end for the Q&A, if you type any questions you have during the presentation, I'll run through them at the end with Rob. So I'll pass you over to Rob.
Good, Lee. Thank you very much for the introduction. And yeah, it's great to have, I think we've got quite a nice number of registrants for the webinar today. So just as a quick introduction, Cosmos is a purpose-built reporting and analytics solution that is purpose-built for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central in the cloud. And I think probably one of the most important points about Cosmos is really the speed of the Excel reporting that we can achieve. And really we're doing that because we are executing all of the reports on the Azure data center as opposed to trying to execute those reports on your local laptop. So one of the biggest pain points, if you like, of traditional Excel reporting solutions is the speed at which reports execute. So that's really one of the main highlights, if you like, of Cosmos and the value that it brings. I'm going to just run through the actual product components of what really makes up Cosmos, and then we'll jump into a demo. So we'll just run through a few slides first. First things first, the Cosmos portal. So this is an online portal that is delivered via a web browser. So very much like Business Central, this is how we access Cosmos, and everything to do with the system is inside the portal. So from administrating users to creating reports, editing reports, scheduling them, being able to access the Power BI dashboards, and actually making any needed changes to the actual data part of the system as well, the actual data model. Cosmos is delivered as a very quick solution to roll out. It only takes 30 minutes for us to deliver a Cosmos system and hook everything up to your Azure tenant and link it up to your Business Central. So we have a pre-built data model out of the box, and we'll take a look at this, but there's also a report gallery where there's over 30 reports that are pre-built, and so we've got very quick time to value. The report editor within Cosmos is really focused towards business users. Again, I think another pain point of some of the traditional reporting solutions is that you're basically pointing the reporting solution at the raw tables within Business Central, which are actually quite hard for business users to understand. Sometimes you know the data is there, but it's quite hard to kind of link all of the needed tables together. So we are taking a slightly different approach. We're building a data model that's easy to use, and then with the report editor, you can design reports without requiring any kind of technical expertise, and no kind of coding required, anything like that. And we've got lots of kind of smart tools within Cosmos that auto links things together, that makes the actual report design process quite a bit easier. And we'll take a look at designing a report just later on in the session. A big demand that we are seeing is customers wanting to provide information, whether it's sales or operating information within Power BI, within a dashboard where people can interact with the data. Again, I think the frustration is very similar. Customers try to point Power BI at Business Central. You're pointing more or less to the raw tables, and it's quite hard to get the results out. So we'll take a look at how we can actually use Power BI in a slightly different way. by pointing Power BI directly to the Cosmos data model to get the actual results out of the system, making it basically easier to build the visualizations. So I don't like PowerPoint too much, so we are going to jump straight into the product. So as I described, everything is delivered via a web browser. So every customer, once they've had a Cosmos portal delivered to them, you log in at portal.cosmosdatatech.com. And part of our onboarding process is to link everything up to your Active Directory. Now, I'm an administrator of this system, so I just jump into a screen where we manage the users. But part of our integration to Azure is making the really, really easy for IT administrators to administer the system. So really, in the click of a few buttons, I've added a new user into the system, and on top of that, all I need to do is manage the user roles, and pretty much, I mean, that user could now log into the system, and we'll use Alice, my fictitious user, as an example later on in the session as well. Cosmos has got two main user types. A full user can basically do anything in the system. You can still manage the user roles. Probably one of the most biggest differentiators between a full user and a light user is that a full user can actually design reports with Cosmos, and a light user can just take a report that's already been designed, but they can run and execute it with their own filters and that type of thing. Just at the bottom here, service users is for the partners and ourselves to be able to support customers. But when people first log into Cosmos, they are likely to come to this area first if they're not an administrator. So this is where all of the Excel reports live. The top of the screen is a workspace that is individual to each user. And just in the area below, these are all of the reports that are checked in and ready to use. So for people getting started with Cosmos, you can either use the pre-built reports that come in a report gallery. So I can just pick one of these out as an example. So I'll pick out a financial statement, an income statement, where the columns are split by global dimension. I'm just going to import that report, and it will just drop into the report section in a second, and it will be ready to run and execute. So if I just search for that report, so we can just find it here just with the find as you type search box at the top. And just a piece on security. So if I just go to the security section, I've imported the report, so I get the access to that report straight away. If I wanted to expose that report definition to Alice, the user that I added at the beginning, very, very simple exercise. And now when Alice logs in, this is basically the view that she would see as a light user. To run and execute a report, we just click on the play icon. Most reports are designed in a way that we see like a request form for the report, so that any user can specify whatever filters have been built into the report itself. This report has just got a simple start and end date. We can run reports with or without the facility to be able to drill down into the transaction. So I'll leave that switched on at the moment. And then we just run and execute the report as per our requirements. So I've nearly missed two of these, but the report has basically processed itself. And in the end, I just press open, and we see the result of that report in Excel online by default. So this report is a report that basically builds out columns and rows dynamically on a single Excel sheet. The report is designed in a way that we're repeating down the page the account categories from Business Central, and then inside those sections we're listing out the GL accounts that belong to the category, and then in the opposite direction the dimension codes. But all of these columns and rows are dynamic, so if we have an extra dimension value that's appropriate later on, we'll get an extra column in the report appropriately. The Cosmos add-in, so this is really useful to note, because everything that I'm showing you today is going to be in Excel Online, and the Cosmos Excel add-in works both with Excel Online and Excel Desktop. This also means that the entire solution therefore is cross-platform. So if you're using a Windows machine or just a web-enabled tablet or an Apple Mac or something like that, it really doesn't matter. You can just access Cosmos via the browser, so it's good for people working remotely. Also really easy for IT administrators to push out the Cosmos add-in via the Microsoft Admin Center, and we handle updates after that. So all new features are pushed out automatically to the system. The add-in is just going to give me here in this situation some context about the aggregate that I'm selected on inside this report. So we are making a sum of the amount field from the general ledger transactions table. We are applying a reverse sign operator, so the income displays as a positive number. And then here we've got the filters where we're showing the general ledger account 44200, the dimension code. This is the column that we're in for electronics, and then the date range between the range that the report was run for. As a full or light user, I've got the ability to be able to drill down into the transactions to go and take a look at all of the individual entries that make up this particular aggregate. So when we hit the drill down button, Cosmos will basically run a separate tab that will just give us a listing of all of the transactions behind the data. It's important to note that Cosmos basically has a multi-company data model. You'll see here that this particular aggregate is made up with data that comes from two companies in data that is being pulled into one in the Cosmos data model. One of the downsides, I think, to Business Central out-of-the-box reporting is that you can only really report on the company that you're logged into at the time. So Cosmos makes it much easier to run reports either by combining information from multiple companies like this, or indeed it's possible to lay out reports in a different way. So these columns, for example, could be companies rather than dimension codes, or it could be that we have a separate sheet splitting out the data per company. There's lots of different ways in which we can handle multi-company data. So that's the basics of running a report. And after we've run a report, we can look at the recent report runs. If a finance team, for instance, want to permanently archive like a report snapshot, like at the end of a month or something like that, then we can just put a message against the individual report run that we want to keep. And the archive is actually storing a snapshot of the report on a SharePoint repository in the background. So at any time, you can go back and sort of take a look at what the published accounts were, or a report at a snapshot in time. It's much better to strategically keep reports rather than keeping every single one that the system has run. Quite often it is a requirement for people to set a schedule such that reports can be distributed automatically. So you can set a time here, either run reports on a specific day or particular days of the month, that type of thing. And reports will be distributed via email to basically any valid email address. So this could be, it doesn't even have to be somebody that is a Cosmos licensed user. It doesn't even have to be somebody that's inside your organization. It can go out to external customers, vendors, that type of thing. So you can use the system to automate. And again, all of that scheduling is taking place on the Cosmos platform. So you don't need any servers, computers, laptops, anything like that running to support that process. And a nice use as well of the scheduling feature is to have a report that might have a filter, let's say for salesperson, something like that. And then you can set multiple schedules for the same report, setting a different filter, and then distributing results out, like a subset of results, for instance, to a particular salesperson. I want to show the process of writing a report from scratch. So I'm just going to call this one Kick Webinar. I've got the opportunity to design a report either in Excel Online or Excel Desktop. So I'm going to use the online version just for this demonstration. So what Cosmos is doing now is just creating a blank report template, and then what we'll do first is just use just standard Excel just to fill in the information about what I want to see on this report. So I'm going to call this a sales by salesperson report, and I want to include on here some columns. So we'll have the customer number, the name, the city, so some attributes from the customer master record, the month sales, and also the total sales. So The idea for this demonstration report is that we are going to give this a heading. We'll just tidy up the column headings with a default Excel style. So, so if we're doing a report by salesperson, I'd like to show really all of, some of each of the functions within the system. So we've got different salespeople within our organization. So we will have a sheet per salesperson. On each sheet, we will list out the customers for that salesperson down the page in this direction. And then for each month, we will build out a column across the page in this direction. So it would be like a two-way matrix report. And we'll have a report option where we have got the opportunity to set a particular year as our filter, and I'll just put the value of that just to the right here. So I'll just tidy this up slightly. And then what we're going to do this time is use the Cosmos add-in, which displays itself in a different mode, if you like, this time, because it gives us all of the tools that we've got available to build out the report required. Cosmos has got a very compact tool set, so it's exactly the same functions, whether it's financial reports, whether it's sales reports, that type of thing. So a lot of thought has gone into making the whole process really as smooth as possible. We've also got built in an AI helper called Captain Cosmos, right? This will basically help you with your report design. So I could ask this a question, like, for instance, how do I add filters? I can spell. And what this will do, it will go off and scrape our knowledge base and come back with a suggestion of an article about really what I've asked it. So again, a real nice value add with Cosmos is that all of our online learning content is completely free of charge. It's open gated. There are about 300 articles that are bite-sized articles with short, small, 4-minute video in this case, a walkthrough of the process. So there's a lot of content here for business users to get up and running with being able to run design their own reports. That's really the whole idea behind Cosmos, is making this more business user friendly. So what I'm going to do for this report is design a report where we are going to start by pressing new under the report options. And the first thing that you'll notice here that I'm presented with a list of, quite a compact list of friendly tables. This is not how the data is structured in Business Central directly. We've done some work beforehand to prepare the structure of the data such that it's easier to work with. So for this report, we are going to add a filter for year. So when I run the report, we are going to have a pop-up box that is going to suggest a year, and I've just set a default value for 2024. And then I could repeat that process if I wanted other filters, like to filter by company or by department or that type of thing. To build out our sheets per salesperson, we use this function called sheet lists. And under the sales transactions table, we've got a field there called salesperson code. Simple as that. And that will now build out the sheets for us. So we'll have one sheet per salesperson. But what Cosmos automatically does, which is really smart, it pulls forwards the report options that we've set. So in this case, we will only see salespeople that have bought something in the year that's been set for the report options. So a lot of linking together is being done automatically for us when we build out the reports with Cosmos. On the sheets themselves, so we said we want to build out a row moving down in this direction for every customer. So I start by selecting from left to right the area of the report that I want repeated downwards for each customer. And then I can just search under sales transactions, and I have a field here for sell to customer. And then I can just press save, and that will create a function that will copy this whole area of the report downwards. At any time, I can click away, press select, and it will just jump back to the selection that this function refers to. In the other fields, if we just want individual field lookups, so in this instance, I'm looking for the customer name. And under sales transactions, the relationships between the sales transactions table, which is all of our posted sales, and the sell to customer number or sell to customer is already here within the system. So the relationships are already set for us. So all I need to do is basically drop in the fields that I require. I can make that as wide as I want. I'm just adding a couple of fields here for now. Now for this month's sales, we're going to add another range list. So this time I'm selecting, rather than from left to right, I'm selecting from top to bottom. And this time when we add a range list, it's going to be based on month year. So we have one column per month. We need to sort this in a different order. So we're going to sort this by date because this is an alphabetical field. So we want the months sequenced in the correct order. And because I drew a shape this time from top to bottom under the general tab, Cosmos has kind of already detected in this case that I want to work in columns, whereas previously I selected from left to right, and it's already picked up that the customers are to be listed in rows. So again, it's quite intelligent in what it picks up with how you're actually building out the report. Okay, so because behind each customer we have potentially a number of different sales transactions for each customer a month combination, we are going to here add an aggregate. So the sales amount is really a combination. So Cosmos combines invoices, credit memos together. So this is a net amount for sales. We can either sum transactions, we can count the number of records, or count unique values. So there's different types of aggregate that we can use. Anything within the report, we are using Excel to do any formatting. So I can just format this with a currency symbol, and then to total things up in both directions, I can just use the Excel auto sum feature, and then just add some formatting just to highlight these as totals in both directions. One last thing that I overlooked here just was to put in the filter for the year. So we can actually easily just write that into the report. So when the report is viewed by a user, people can see exactly what year filter was set. So it corresponds with the data shown on the actual report. So hopefully you've seen there that I haven't really done anything too complex. There were a lot of things within the tool that have made things easy for me. When I'm designing reports, I could preview the report from here. What I'm going to do on this occasion is just close down the report and then come back to the Cosmos portal. And this report is sitting here in my workspace, and I can check the report in, and then that report will be ready to run and execute. So again, if I just search for webinar, I can pick up the Kik webinar report. And again, and let's have a go at running this. So I could change the year here if I wanted to, and just run and execute the report. So the activities here will basically show all of the sheets being produced individually. The sheets are then collated at the end to make one single report. And then this is the result that we've just made. So we have at the bottom here one sheet, as we said, per salesperson, all of our customers for that salesperson listed out, the months working in the other direction. Now, I cannot reiterate here enough that Cosmos doesn't really care what the data is. These sheets could be salespeople, they could be companies, they could be dimension codes. This list of information could be general ledger accounts, like we saw in the gallery report. These columns, again, could be months, they could be companies, they could be dimensions, item categories. It really doesn't matter. The functions basically all work in exactly the same way. So how do we do this with this data? So I'm going to spend just a second just talking about the data management area of the system. I'll warn you now, this is slightly more technical, but this is really how we are taking a complex data structure as it sits in Business Central, and we're making it much easier to use. The way that we connect to Business Central is through an AppSource app that you install on your Business Central environment. Very, very quick to do. And then this allows us to connect to and pull data from multiple companies that may be set up in your environment. We've got the ability to have multiple companies from one environment. We could add more than one environment in, so some more complex customers are running different country versions of Business Central. So you may have I don't know, like a US production environment plus a GB production environment, and you want to pull all of that data together. Just recently, we've also had the new connectors released. So if you've got any complementary data that does not sit in Business Central, like in Excel or an Azure SQL database, we're able to pull in data from other sources and then merge that data with the ultimately that pulls through to the final data model. Everything really that we're seeing here is pretty much as it comes out of the box. This is the selection of tables and fields that we're pulling from Business Central. So strategically, we're pulling the information that we require. Like I've mentioned, Business Central is quite a complex data structure, so we're kind of simplifying this a little bit. So on the customer table here, for instance, we've got a specific field that is for the country region code, but this field here doesn't exist on the customer record in Business Central, but we're introducing new fields to make things a lot easier for reporting. So the country name field is a field that we have introduced, and we're populating that by making a lookup to the country region table to go and pull back the actual country name. There are a whole kind of raft of calculations, that type of thing, that are going on within this transformations area. Some of the custom work that we're doing for customers can include the ability, for instance, to pull into the general ledger entry table. Like here, for instance, its area dimension code is not a global dimension, but it's one of the additional dimensions within Business Central. But again, we're populating a field by making a lookup. So in the end, the GL transactions table in Cosmos is almost like having 3, 4, 5, however many global dimensions. So it's really flexible when you come to reporting. Sales transactions, this is the table that I was working from, and you'll see here that there's actually a number of different Business Central tables that basically feed into the table that I was working with when I was building that report. And this is necessary because Business Central stores things in a very disparate way. For instance, sales invoice lines and headers are stored differently to credit memo lines and headers. So it's quite complex when you're trying to report. So we've kind of made this job easy by pulling all this information together and just presenting one really easy table with all of the relationships pre-built. So for instance, I was using the relationship between here and the sell to customer, and this is really how Cosmos knew to link everything together for me automatically when I was building out the report. So we kind of taken something that's quite complex and making it into a simpler data structure that's easier for business users to follow. Now, we've put a lot of effort into this, and whilst we can use Cosmos to build structured Excel reports that are, still used really widely by finance teams, that type of thing, for end of month management accounts, that type of thing, people also want to use the information within Power BI. Now, what I'm going to do here is just drag across Power BI desktop. And here we've got, I'm just in the table view here for the moment. And I think the important message here is that instead of pointing Power BI directly at Business Central, we are pointing Power BI to the Cosmos data model. So on the right hand side here, you'll see that I've got exactly the same list of tables of information. And this is actually coming from the Cosmos API. That's how we expose the data model. And again, that sales transactions table, all of those tables, the work is already done. So you can download from the Cosmos website a set of Power BI model templates. Let's make this a bit bigger. And this is a classic star schema where all of the transactional information is in the center of the data model, and the tables that I want to describe my sales by are sitting on the outside. So this basically means if I want to describe my sales by location or by item or by date or by salesperson, these relationships are already put into place. And this allows us to basically build a more of an interactive dashboard like this. I'll just spend a second, if we're okay for time, I think we are, just to take a look at really what this means in Power BI when we come to build visualizations from this. So what I'll do here is just pull a visual in, and then we'll just choose the sales amount, and we can describe this by item categories, for instance. And I've got pretty much an instant result. I could copy that and then move it across, and then we could just have a different version of this where I'm saying, okay, well, give me a pie chart, but rather than item category, we'll actually do this by salesperson name or something like that. And each of these are kind of linked together automatically. So hopefully what I'm trying to show you is that the process of building out the Power BI dashboards, when you've got the data kind of structured in the right way, is really a much easier job. So what I'll do here is just have sales transactions, and I'll summarize this by year, for instance. So everything is kind of showing correctly. I'll do one more, which is a map, which is quite useful. Where are we selling products to customers, and what does the volume of that the sales look like? So if I just have a field here, so I can see now, this is, I'll be honest with you, an American data set. So a lot of the sales are in North America, but this basically all adjusts for you based on whatever it is that I select. If I go back to the sales dashboard, another thing that is quite important. So this is just some visuals that, excuse me, I spent some more time on just to finalize the structure, but the principle is the same. I'm able to set a filter here, for instance, for a year, or to see what a particular salesperson has sold. Now, a really important message is that I'm creating structured Excel reports off of the same data set, the governed data set that I'm now also using for Power BI. So this is really the same data as the report that I built. So if we're saying here, what did I sell to Carly Nichols in 2024? Well, this was the amount, 2,879,899. If I just navigate back to the report that we built in Cosmos, and then go to CN, which is Carly Nichols, 2,879,899. So the numbers completely tie up between those two, and that's not a coincidence. That is just because rather than using my front end presentation tool to do the preparation of my data, where it's probably quite hard to get those numbers tying up together so easily, I'm basically just using either Excel or Power BI as the presentation layer, and then that means that everyone is reporting off of a consistent data set. After you've finished designing things in Power BI, you may be using Power BI already. Typically, you would share that and publish the dashboard up to the Power BI service. And the nice thing with Cosmos is that we kind of complete the loop, so that under the reporting section, we have all of our Excel reports here. But when I click on Power BI, what this actually does, it's logging into the Power BI service as myself, as a user, and this is all of my workspaces from the Power BI service. So if I just click View here, this just provides me a really nice, quick, easy way of accessing my Power BI dashboards that have been published, but I haven't actually left the URL of the Cosmos portal. So it's kind of a one-stop shop, if you like, for Excel reports, Power BI reports, based off of your up-to-date Business Central data that can be augmented, if you like, by other data sources through the additional connectors that we have as well. I'm just going to show you as well. I mean, Cosmos is being developed pretty proactively. There's a link here. I think if we ask Kik to maybe send this out, but it's interesting to see some of the new features that have been rolled out into the product. So we'll ask Kik to kind of share this, and you can keep your eye on new features that are being introduced. Again, to reiterate, there is no work to do to push out those new features into Cosmos. As soon as a new feature is available, it will basically show up here automatically. So your IT administrators don't have to do anything, and also because the Cosmos add-in is pushed out via the Microsoft Admin Center, we are also able to keep that up to date also. Okay, I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to ask. So I'm really hoping, and if you haven't already, please type in a question for us, because we'd be more than happy to answer any questions now. So, if okay,
Yep.
I'm going to pass back to Lee to see whether you've got any questions for me.
Yep, Rob, there's already some questions coming in. There's a question here for monthly snapshots of reports. So
Yeah.
when that snapshot is done, does the drill down data behind that report come with it?
Yes, if you had run the report with the drill down facility switched on, so you can either run a report with or without drill down when you run a report or when you schedule a report. But yes, but just to make clear, you do need to be at least a light user or a full user to be able to actually drill down on the transactions, because that is what gives you access to the Cosmos add-in. But equally so, if you were to schedule that report and just distribute it to somebody outside of the organization, they would just be able to open and see the result of the actual report output on the Excel spreadsheet.
Great, thank you. Next question. What is the difference between the full user and the light user, as you just mentioned?
Yeah, so a full user can do anything within the system, like from the administration part to making changes to the data model to writing reports, being able to use the Cosmos API, which is how Power BI basically connects. Although some people might be a full user, so somebody might be licensed as a full user, but they may not be able to, let's say, change the data model. So you can switch that part off. So you can still manage the roles that people have, even though they're a full user. So a full user doesn't automatically always get access to everything, but usually you would have an administrator that does.
Okay. Another question here. It's coming from an ISV provider who builds an industry vertical products based on Business Central. Could they
Yes.
build an enhanced data model for use for their customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and perhaps I didn't speak about this too much, is that the way that we connect to Business Central, we can connect to any table and field. So our standard out-of-the-box data model is based on standard Microsoft tables and fields. It covers the standard data model covers the business areas of finance, AP, AR, sales, purchasing, and inventory. But on top of that, we've got the ability to access any single table and field in the Business Central environment, whether that's standard Microsoft, it could be something that Kik has done for the customer as an enhancement, where you've written an extension for the customer. It could be a product that they've installed from AppSource or using from AppSource. It doesn't really matter in the end. But I think the way that we connect to Business Central is through a purpose-built connector. If people are used to that again is another kind of pain point, because to get to any data like that within Business Central, otherwise as a partner you may well have to write an API for a customer to get to data that might be based on custom tables and fields that you've written as an extension. So Cosmos kind of eliminates the management of that going forwards, and as new tables get added in the future, they're immediately available from Cosmos.
Great. Okay, thank you. And one more come in. We currently use Jet. Can we rewrite our Jet reports for Cosmos in Cosmos?
Yeah, I think the way that I mean, to make things clear, that there is not, unfortunately, a conversion tool between the two. I mean, in my opinion, it's probably quicker to write Cosmos reports than it is with Jet, because you've got a lot of the relationships already pre-built, and you're not working, let's say, directly against the raw tables of Business Central. So I think the complexity of the data that you're dealing with is much easier to work with. But yeah, I mean, the reports themselves would have to be rebuilt essentially. But what I will say is that we've got lots of customers that we've helped out. They've done a mixture of the online training content for the videos. We may have done 1 or 2 sessions with them remotely on a team session, but after a couple of sessions, most customers are pretty proficient at being able to write reports that they need. So you don't really need any special technical expertise, that type of thing, to use the functions. So.
Great. And yeah, we've got another. How real time is the data in the reports?
Yeah, so what we do when we refresh the data from Business Central, we do that automatically overnight always. And then throughout the day, you're able to basically run the pipeline that just loads. Now, just to be clear, all that's doing is loading the incremental data from Business Central for the transactions that you've added since. So typically that might take as little as like 20-30 seconds, something like that. It doesn't, of course, is dependent on the amount of transactions that you've got. And then that completely refreshes the data model, and then you report from that. The only time that we really see that necessary is like when people are doing like month end, that type of thing, where you might post some final journals, and then you might want to run like your whole management reporting pack. I didn't have time to show that in the solution, but actually that might be one thing that I can do very quickly. Because again, I mean, the reports that I showed you in from the gallery are normally like 1-page reports, and like the one that I've built. In this situation here, this is going to take a little longer to run, but this is mimicking a like a monthly report pack. So you can build several reports within the same Excel workbook and basically execute those in one go once you know that all your transactions in Business Central have been finalized. And then it's just a matter of kind of distributing that. So I'll just let that run for a second. It's doing a bit more work, and I'll just open up the result afterwards. But I think, with Business Central now, a lot of kind of real-time information that you might require. Business Central has got some really nice tools inside of it, like the analyze mode and things like that. And I think that my advice would be, if you want information that is completely immediately up to date, use Business Central for that, and look at your kind of real-time information there, because the tools within Business Central have improved. But of course, where Cosmos kind of adds is putting the data into a better shape for kind of structured reporting and that type of thing. So the report I've just run, this report pack, I'm just trying to squeeze as much as I can in, but this report is basically providing me like a month version of my income statement, a year-to-date version, where I've built out all of the columns by month, or in this case by dimension, and then I've got a separate page which is more of an operational report, which is showing me the sales of item category by salesperson in columns. So similar layout to the report that I did, but of course the columns and rows are something different.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question and one more come in, Rob. What's the advantage of building the reports in Cosmos over something like Power BI?
Yeah, I think Power BI is something that people always kind of want to use. I think if you're laying out something like an income statement, that type of thing, where you have got lots of different subtotals or independent calculations like profit margin calculations or things like that, it's not impossible to achieve that in Power BI, but it's a lot more complex to achieve that in Power BI, because a standard pivot table in Power BI doesn't really lend itself well to that kind of structure that you can achieve within Excel. I think as well, Lee, what I would say there is that most finance departments want to produce a static set of published reports that they can publish, they can distribute, and they kind of stand still. But of course, organizations also want the interactivity of Power BI, such that people can kind of play with the filters in different combinations and learn more about any particular trends within the organization. So I think there is still a distinct need for both. What Cosmos brings to the party, if you like, is being able to do that, but reporting off of the same consistent data set. So that's really the biggest advantage, I think, of Cosmos.
Yep, great, thanks for that. Well, I think that's us with questions. So unless anybody else has one last question, or we finished? No, I think that's us.
Okay, I think we're done, and right on 11:45 as well, which I think was the target, Lee. So I think
Great.
you couldn't do that if you tried. So, but if there's any other questions, we've just put some information here as to how you can contact the partner, Kik, and we'll be happy to discuss more with you. So,
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Rob. Thanks for that.
yeah, no problems. Okay, we'll speak soon.
Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, as Rob said, you can drop myself or your account manager an email, and we'll get back to you. That's great.
Great,
Thank
and
you.
thanks very much for having us. Thank you.
Great. Cheers. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye now.